After spending more than 150 hours in the game, I can confidently say that Baldur's Gate 3 is one of the most intricate, story-rich, and lived-in worlds that I've ever experienced in a video game. It's right up there, side by side with the greats. It's like playing a game with the attention to detail of Red Dead Redemption 2, world building of The Witcher 3, verticality of Dishonored, music of Nier Automata, the wonder of Elden Ring, and the decision-making flexibility of Fallout 3 and New Vegas. All that in a turn-based Dungeons & Dragons universe RPG? I figured Baldur's Gate 3 would be worth playing because of Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, but I didn't think they would go this hard, although I'm glad they did. I believe one of the few things that have made Baldur's Gate 3 such a pleasant experience is that Larian has managed to get a lot of the small things right, but I noticed two things in particular that made me really happy. Number one, Ultrawide works flawlessly. It works in gameplay, dialogue, and even in the intro's pre-rendered cutscenes. I didn't need to find a mod, no tinkering, the option was just there, and I love that, especially because most games have a habit of squeezing dialogue and cutscenes into 16:9. Number two is high bitrate pre-rendered videos. I'm not a fan of pre-rendered cutscenes in general, mainly because over time they don't really hold up well to the in-game visuals, mostly because they're usually rendered in low bitrate, presumably to save storage space. But in turn, you'll notice blocky artifacts whenever you're in darker cutscenes, and here, that's not a problem. And while these things might not bother you even the slightest bit, they make a huge difference for me. Baldur's Gate 3's story unfolds through your decisions in a D&D make-your-own-adventure kind of way. What makes it really special is that whichever alignment you choose, good, evil, or everything in between, you won't be missing out on a good story because Larian has made it their goal to ensure each path feels meaningful. So, if you're thinking of doing an evil playthrough, you're still going to have an equally worthwhile experience. While some events will change to reflect your decisions, meaning companions may leave or you can be denied an immediate reward, you'll still have a good time either way because an evil decision could benefit you down the road. But a good story would crumble without interesting main and supporting characters. And Larian did themselves proud because every companion and side character is written masterfully. But let's not forget also to thank the amazing voices that brought them to life. They did so much justice to the game.
10 years of that. The stories I could tell.
Karlach's temper is a sight to behold. She'll need to be careful. That rage will burn her right out.
Isn't it glorious? Karlach's fury is a wonder to behold.
One more thing I would like to commend Larian on is delivering story-based content based on player feedback. Specifically, Karlach's new ending. Minor spoilers, but during my first playthrough, I decided to romance Karlach despite the game foreshadowing an unavoidable tragedy. But the community found in the data mines that Larian had an alternative to the trauma that the game would have inflicted on me should I have committed to my current playthrough. Within the week, they managed to write, record, and release that new ending, working around the clock worldwide, which shows amazing commitment to their art. Thank you. For a bit of context, for my first playthrough, I decided to play without mods to see whether I'd enjoy the vanilla experience. And if you're curious, I have. But I can't wait to delve back into the game once again with mods when my criticisms of the game have been addressed. And I'm fairly confident that Larian Studios will succeed in fixing these issues that I have given time. But let's start with talking about the game's turn-based combat. It's no secret after my last video gushing about Divinity Original Sin 2, I love it. But I've been led to think that turn-based combat was a relic of a bygone era. I mistakenly believed that the mechanic wouldn't be a good fit in a world where most gamers are working adults because it presents an artificial way of extending playtime. And while that criticism remains valid, I realized when you inject creative ways to use it, like adding the ability to turn invisible then shove an enemy down a chasm, suddenly turn-based mechanics become exciting again. If you're generally not a fan of turn-based mechanics, I'm sorry to hear it, but I implore you to give it a chance because in this game at least, it gives you the opportunity to execute some finesse when it comes to gameplay. Think of it as a compromise that allows the flexibility of coordinating all your companions to execute a strategy that involves multiple timely actions. For example, I can go into turn-based mode and cast Minor Illusion to distract an enemy, then sneak up behind them to set up multiple explosives, then quickly sneak out before they notice while my wizard would be somewhere close by waiting to cast an opportune fireball in the same turn to instantly incinerate the enemy. Coordinating my companions this way outside of turn-based mechanics would be difficult to implement even for games with tactical pause. Going back to what I said about the world, it really does feel alive. Every character, quest, item, landscape, dungeon, everything contributes to making the world so much more believable. And speaking of the quests, they're so good that completing them felt like the reward itself. Sure, you will be able to loot the bosses at the end or gain an ally for the endgame, but I seldom noticed this because whenever I was engaged in a quest, I was fully engaged in the story, and I never thought about the rewards until I've done the quest itself. It also made me rethink NPC interactions and reactions. While it's not new for NPCs or companions to treat you differently depending on your decisions in a previous quest, I never really noticed it until I played Baldur's Gate 3. My theory is that most games only comment on your immediate actions and never bring it up again. But Baldur's Gate 3 will bring up something that happened 70 hours ago, then proceed to lay on the consequences of that specific decision. When it comes to romance, it far surpasses Divinity Original Sin 2. In fact, it's a whole minigame in itself. Baldur's Gate manages to make me genuinely want to explore the relationships in the game. And it feels so rewarding to see your romance companion take your relationship into account during their journey. However, I hope Larian expands this aspect further in the future because sometimes the relationship either goes too fast and lacks interaction in the middle. I'd love to see more dates and more romance-related quests to help fill in the gaps in between those big romantic scenes. Also, it would be kind of adorable for other companions to fall for each other along the way. Finally, the game could also use a best friend feature. For example, Gale is a fun character and I'd love to just vibe with the guy without him trying to get in my pants every time I say something nice. Chill, dude. Okay, so Baldur's Gate 3 isn't without its flaws, and while I might sound overly passionate about my criticisms, I believe Larian will address them when they get the chance. If you've seen other reviews, the biggest complaint is the late game performance and some minor but frequent bugs. You'll also most likely have heard of Act 3's dismal performance. When I watched reviews saying Act 3 was a 5 out of 10 experience, I thought it was a content issue. Turns out, Act 3 is filled to the brim with content, but while I'm not on the latest and greatest hardware, I've experienced horrendous frame times and stutters that really pulls you out of the experience. It especially discouraged me from exploring everything because all the stutters were so distracting and I started racing towards the end just because I wanted to avoid them. Not only that, I frequently bumped into issues when playing with my controller. Sometimes the interface would overlap or disappear altogether. I think there's a lot that can be done to fix and optimize the game for controllers. In addition, I think it also would be nice to be able to remap some aspects of the controls. I'm hoping that Larian finds a way to fix the level cap. I understand that skills beyond level 12 in D&D are a nightmare to translate in-game, but all of the quest experience after the max level cap feels wasted. My suggestion is maybe those experience points can be used to expand your skills, equipment, or even a separate multi-class leveling mechanic. I know there are mods that already do this, but I think it's something that the game should officially support. But you know what? All that being said, I truly believe Baldur's Gate 3 stands alongside The Witcher 3 as one of the best RPGs of our time. And I don't say that lightly. In fact, I think it has the potential to surpass Witcher 3 if Larian considers adding story DLC. Personally, I think that if our beloved Origin companions are not coming back in a sequel, it would be nice to have a post-ending story content to help us say goodbye, because that's how real this world and the characters feel like. And so, I can't wait to play this game all over again. Thanks for watching.